everyone. This is The Fearless Performer with Maria Kaneko Millar, and today's subject is multi-genre techniques. What is this? This is taking your main genre and learning new ones to add to your vocabulary, and I swear by it. I can tell you that I studied classical music from the age of 4, and by the time I was 19, I started learning new genres, whether it was going to the New York Public Library and borrowing CDs, or going to Ireland and fiddling, and my confidence doubled at that point. My identity probably, it grew by tenfold, and my technique, specifically my bowing technique, I feel doubled from the time of playing classical music. And I practiced probably the most when I was a teenager. I practiced up to 4 hours a day. But the minimal amount of time I put into learning genres, so it was really intensive, but it wasn't regular 4 hours a day kind of practice. I learned so much and grew so quickly. So this is what I want to talk about. There are 3 different ways to go about learning a new genre. The first way is you do it in real person. So you find a teacher. You take lessons, you play in sessions, you're around people from that genre. And that's how I learned Celtic fiddling. I was 19, I went to Northern Ireland to visit my grandmother, and my father was there, and he was walking down the street in Bangor, and he noticed a stained glass shop with some fiddles hanging in the window. So he went in and he said, my daughter's a violinist. And the man who owned that establishment, called Geordie McAdam, he heard this every day from parents who said their children played the violin. So he's like, okay, whatever. So when I came to Northern Ireland, my dad brought me to visit him, and I just started experimenting. So I played for him a classical piece, a Japanese arrangement, a tango piece, and he was very happy to hear it and decided to take me under his wing. So together we'd drive to Belfast, and we'd play in sessions together. And I met the McPeaks there, and they brought me to a summer camp called the Willie Clancy Summer School. And I was sitting amongst children and grown people with total legends learning how to fiddle. And that immersive experience made me grow so much. In the course of one summer, I went back to Juilliard, and I was experimenting, bringing classical music into Irish music, vice versa. My life was changed with that. So that's a really good way to learn. And I do have a caveat for that one. Try to be respectful. You can't just walk into any session and pull out your instrument and say, hey, I'm going to play along even though I don't know anything about your style. In my case, having Geordie McAdam as my guide was really, really helpful, because he knew that some sessions were a group of hardcore purists, and they would not like me showing up and possibly improvising along with them. But the other groups that he would bring me to play with, they wanted to actually hear some of my tunes, and so we had a really nice exchange like that. So try to be respectful, but also just enjoy it, because it is magical. Another thing I did recently when I was in Mexico is I joined a mariachi band. I was jamming with them, and that was just it's like the happiest experience in the world. I can't say that I have any more pleasure playing music than when I'm playing with a group of people and improvising and learning from them and them learning from me. So, second way to learn is if you don't have any access to live lessons. You can do it all as a big, gigantic ear training exercise. So you go on YouTube, you choose the genre you want to learn about, and you watch a million videos on it, and just soak it in. Pay attention to the rhythms, the ornaments, maybe the different styles of bowing, and then you start playing along with it. And you don't need to just play with your own instrument. Play along with other instruments. Emulate the vocals, because often it's in the vocals where you can really hear the differences of that genre. So play along with it. And then, when you're getting a little more comfortable, write out something. Choose one tune and try to transcribe it if you can write music. Because this is a really good exercise for learning about the rhythms, learning about the ornaments. Again, by putting it on paper, it's making your ear really more and more sensitive to that. And ideally, make an arrangement of this. So this was my approach to tango music. I never studied it with someone, but the New York Public Library had an extensive collection of Piazzolla's performances with his troupe. So I listened to all of that, and I started to make arrangements. And this was really exciting. It was actually my introduction to composing, because through arranging, I was able to transcribe it and then start to build upon it and turn it into my own piece. Now, the third way to go about learning a new genre is to go to that culture. So in my case, this is how I got into playing Japanese music. I grew up visiting my grandparents in Japan, and I never studied Japanese music, but being it was summertime, I was exposed to myriad summer festivals with the whistles and the drums and the singing, and those sounds stayed with me. So when I was, again, around 18, 19, I was at that New York Public Library for the Performing Arts, and I was borrowing CDs, and I started to find ways to emulate koto sounds or shamisen sounds. And that became a whole exploration that gave me an alternative technique that to this day I use in a lot of my compositions. So these are 3 different ways that you can go about it. And as you can see, there are no barriers. You can go full out and play with people who already do that genre. You can do it totally in the privacy of your room. And in the process, just make your ears way, way, way stronger, because you're listening. And actually, all three ways really build your ears. And I think that you're as good as your ears. So if your ears are more sensitive, can pick up more things, then you're going to play better anyway. So this exercise has myriad benefits. And I'd really like you to give it a try. So as an assignment, because I always want you to do something instead of me just talking at you, I would like you to listen to a song that you really like in a new genre. And I would like you to transcribe it. And if you're feeling not very confident about turning it into your own piece, you can just write out the arrangement as you hear it and learn to play it. But if you're feeling bold, you can start to accompany yourself on it. So for an example, the very first piece I arranged is a Japanese folk tune called Sakura. And I wanted to accompany myself on the tune. I didn't want to just play the single line melody. So here is an example of how I started it. Sorry, we're running out of time, so I'm going to stop it there. But I wanted to give this introduction before today's premiere because it's a total hybrid of classical and Celtic playing. So the first tune that you're going to hear is Tamlin, and I was improvising a very classical style line over it because the orchestra was holding the Celtic tune. And then we go into Mason's Apron, which is straight out fiddling. So that I went more into a Celtic style. But most of all, what I love about this is that you take from these different genres and ultimately you make them your own. So don't get intimidated when you're learning a new genre and you don't master it or sound like people who've been doing it their whole life. You are simply drawing from it. You're letting it infect you so that your vocab grows bigger and bigger. So without further ado, we're going to go to the premiere.